Hey friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and we've got a QSP fixed blade for you today. This is the Canary fixed blade, not the original. That was tiny, if you remember. And if you don't remember, go back and watch that video. I'll link it somewhere at the end, somewhere else. Go find it. This is a full-sized knife. It's not an extra large or, big super knife, but this is a pretty big knife, and it can fit some pretty big hands because my hands, they're just barely extra large, and there's lots of real estate left, and I'll show you close-ups and everything in just a minute. When we get to the tabletop, we got carbon steel. I'll talk more about that later. It's a full tang knife. We got some holes in there to lighten it up a little bit and to aid a little bit in the grip, and it's micarta handle scales in 3 colors. We've got this nice deep green, not an OD green, it's a nice deep, it's like a deep forest green. You can get it in a black micarta, which is really a dark, dark gray. And of course, the third one, I shouldn't say of course, maybe you don't know, it's a brown canvas micarta. So micarta is how this comes, and in this carbon steel. So come on down to the tabletop. We're going to take a good close look at this and the sheath it came in. Comes in. Will come in if you don't have it yet. Did come in if you've got one. Leave some comments down below on what you think of this video. Let's get started. So there we go. Let's take a look at the sheath first. We've got a Kydex taco style sheath. A little drain hole right back here, which is quite nice. The space for these holes is 1.5 inches, so that's pretty standard. You could put a different system on for your belt. This piece right here, it feels like it's ABS. It's some kind of poly something. It's not Kydex or the equivalent. This is probably not technically Kydex because Kydex is a brand name, but it's the same material that Kydex is made of. And this plastic piece is kind of unique. We got a belt loop. We've got a little piece coming up right there, and that means a belt can sit in there, and even if you pull it loose, it's not likely to come out and off your belt unless you want it to. So that's pretty nice, and nice 2 inches plus right here, so a standard 2-inch belt easily fits through there. A little bit of texture on it, and it rotates. That's what this is hinting at right here. There's a detent system in there. You can't see this screw. You'd have to take the whole thing off to get at that, but there's a pretty strong detent. You can hear how that clicks. So every 45 degrees, there's a detent, so you can carry it a number of different ways. And of course, you could take it off and put it back on the other side if you want it on your left side instead of the right side. It's quite nice. I'm pleasantly surprised by this. It's actually decent. I wouldn't mind if this was a little bit higher up, but hey, that's just me. Might be some other people too. Who knows? You tell me. This taco sheath, though, one thing that it really has well done is the retention. Solid click. You heard that for sure. And a nice big push off right here. A lot of people underestimate the value of a push off like that because that really makes a big difference. While it's on the belt, I can put my thumb there and just grab the handle with my fingers and just push. Excuse me. I just had a mint, and because you guys want me to have fresh breath for these videos, so, and it kind of put a tickle in my throat. There we go. Click, push off. Hey, that went flying. So good, solid retention. It doesn't play around. Quite nice. And that's the sheath. So let's put that aside. We'll talk about the weight and everything and other specs a little bit later. Here's the knife. What do we got? We've got CR8MO2VSI steel. What Chinesium is that? Well, they also say on their website that it's the equivalent to like DC53. Well, what's DC53? It's Sleipner. It's basically the same as Sleipner steel. Of course, that's a brand name. And so the Chinese like to use actual specs in their steel, and I respect that. We've got a straight back blade, straight back handle, drop point right here with a swedge on it, and a nice belly here, a nice straight section, really good size sharpener's choil, a little bit of a guard, stone wash. You can also get it in a black wash finish. Since this is a carbon steel, I know a lot of people prefer their carbon steel to have a coating on it. And black wash is just with a titanium coating on the blade and then stone washed a little bit. And I think it's really, really nice. And I got just the regular stone wash version. Where I live, corrosion's not a huge issue. It's easy to avoid it here. So in, south, I call it south central, but technically most people call it central Alberta, Canada. Anyhow, I'm just rambling now. It's a nice steel. It's a good thick chunk of steel, well over 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's full thickness all the way up to here, and then it starts to taper down, towards the tip. Full flat grind, thick edge. Now, if you're not aware of QSP's tendency to do thick edges, yes, this knife is thick right behind the edge grind, right behind that apex grind, and that's very, very normal for QSP. If you like that, turn to QSP. If you don't like that, you might want to check out some other brands of different knives, although a lot of fixed blade knives have thick edges. It's a good steel. It's better than DC. It's better than D2. This is DC53. It's better than D2 in terms of toughness and edge retention, and it's not a big bad price either. $62 American for this knife. I got mine at White Mountain Knives where you can save 10%. That makes it $55.88 there. Not bad at all for what you get. I couldn't find a store that has this in Canada, but a fixed blade like this, you've got no problem getting it across the border into Canada. I bought mine, like I said, from White Mountain Knives, had them ship it directly to me, and for fixed blades and slip joint knives, that's not a problem. And that's the blade. Now, let's talk about the handle, and then we'll talk about how well this edge performs and stuff. The handle material, like I said, is micarta. We've got a bullnosing or rounding all the way around this thing, and a little bit of a micarta, fuzzy kind of texture right here. And this side's got a little bit more of my oils. That's one thing that micarta does. It absorbs sweat and the oils from your skin and stuff. But the thing is, you can just take the handle scales off on this knife and put them through whatever you want. You put it in your sink and wash them, put them through your dishwasher. I don't really recommend it unless they're really nice thick slabs like this to put them through a dishwasher like a super hot cycle. But this is very good material. Just hand wash it, give it a scrub, let it soak in some dish detergent. You can get it clean, a little bit of a scrubbing. The handle, like I said, is a straight back here, but we've got a little bit of a finger, I won't call it a choil, we'll call it a swell here for in the middle of your palm, and then it comes back up again. Feels quite nice. I like how it feels in the hand. I'll give you the measurements later, like I said. The holes are chamfered. There is no lanyard option. I really wish they would have put something on here, preferably something in the back here, like the way Real Steel does. I'll show you a still picture of something like they do. That would have been a really nice touch right here. I really like what Real Steel does on their fixed blades, at least most of them. But it's a small enough knife that it doesn't really need a lanyard, but some people are going to want a lanyard. You could tie it off back here if you want to, like this back hole, but if you really want lanyards, this might not be the knife for you. All right. Oh, T10 screws, not T6, not T8, T10 Torx 10 screws. Badging nice and small, like I said, the steel type's right there, the QSP is right there. I love it. It's properly badged. You've got they've got their name on it, but it's not big and in your face and gaudy. Like it. Is this knife a good piercing knife? No, not really. It can handle some piercing tasks. You've got a fairly good tip on there. We've got a big belly, like I said here, but because it's thick behind the grind, this is not like a food prep kind of knife, although you can certainly use it for that. It's just not really designed for that. This is a working knife. If it was a survival knife, I would rather pair it with something much bigger. Well, not much bigger, but if it was 1.5 inches longer, this could, in my book, stand as a standalone survival knife just fine. It's got a lot of good things going for it, but it's just a little bit shorter than what I would generally recommend. I'm not a survivalist. I've got too many health issues. I don't go out into the wilderness and try to test myself lest I not come back. And I know myself well enough to not try that. But, I do go outdoors. I do stuff. We go camping. It's a decent camp kind of knife. That's probably what it's really good for. Somebody who likes to go camping, you're not too far away from help at any given time. You want a nice, decent knife. It's thick enough behind this grind here, and it's thick enough along the spine. I would do some, woodworking tasks, I'd baton small pieces off of a piece of wood. I wouldn't be doing like as big a piece of wood as I can fit in here because it's not big anyways. But, to make some kindling or whatever works pretty good. I made a little bit of feather sticks with this. Worked pretty good. Not super special, but not bad either. It's a decent knife. It worked hard. I did try a little bit of food prep with it. Sure, it cuts okay. Again, it's not a specialist for that. It's just sort of a more well-rounded kind of camp knife. That's what I'm calling it, like I said. And next thing that I want to talk about, there's no jimping, but it's wide enough here. I didn't really miss it. When the knife gets 1/8 of an inch thick or thinner, I really like decent jimping just to help me out. But you get a really solid grip on this handle, and it's wide enough on the thumb. So, good enough. Let's take this thing apart. Here I've got my T10. Should have bought some T10s out of this, but maybe I will someday. I like these Wera screwdrivers. I bought mine from KC Tool, and they're a good company. I did check this out to see if this was the right fit because I did try my Wera T9, and I wanted to loosen it up, but a little too much play for a T9. You're asking for it to strip or damage the screws if you do that. So I've got this T10 and nice big fat screws. I like that. And take the micarta off. There we go. Flat micarta, like I said, take it off and you can wash it. Just these little holes in here, they don't make it, well, technically they do make it weaker, but they don't make it weaker enough to even think about it. Not for any practical use. If you want to do some testing to destruction, you could make it break over here if you wanted to, but you can break anything if you try hard enough. So not bad. Quite a simple design, really. And it looks good, feels good, and I think it's a nice knife. Now, these screws are free spinning, but I didn't have any issues just using one screwdriver to take them off. I didn't take them off before now. Now was the very first time I took them off. I did just check and see if this was able to be taken off with one screwdriver before I started recording, and it worked just fine, just like I expected. Do you want the rest of the measurements, the rest of the dimensions and stuff like that? All right, let's get on to that stuff. How much does this knife weigh? 201 grams, 7.09 ounces. Not bad. 74 grams for the sheath. That is 2.6 ounces together, 275 grams, 9.7 ounces. Yeah, it's a bigger knife. That's what you get. How sharp was it from the factory? A little less sharp than I would have preferred. I tested it 3 or 4 times. The average score is about 275 best. I'd much prefer the score to be under 200. The average score for the knives that I review is closer to 140, 150. The way I use my specific tester, your mileage may vary if you've got a best tester, but not as sharp as I'd like. But it's a knife, it can be sharpened. If you don't know how to sharpen knives, that's the next thing you want to be working on, guys. Learn how to sharpen your knives. And if you just can't, well, find somebody who can help you sharpen knives. The measurements now, the cutting edge length, so the tip to the front of that sharpener's choil right there, a straight line measurement across there is 101 millimeters, 101.2 millimeters, 3.98 inches. So 4 inches of cutting edge, very nice. The tip to the handle is a little bit more, 109.5, that's 4.31 inches. The thickness of this blade stock, 4.16 millimeters, 0.164 of an inch, nice and thick. The blade depth, it's actually biggest right there, and that was 32.6 millimeters, 1.28 inches. The thickness behind the grind was quite consistent all the way along, 0.88 millimeters, 35 thousandths of an inch. So I'd like it to be less than 20 thousandths, because every time you sharpen a knife that has a full flat grind like this, which is so many of them, or even a saber grind, it's just going to get thicker and thicker behind that edge. You know, so it's, I don't know, maybe it's trying to be a tiny bit of a Scandi grind. Maybe that's why it did so good with the feather sticks. Well, not bad at all. So I don't know. It's a little thicker than I prefer, but I like this knife. I'm happy with it. I didn't check the grind angles. I've decided to stop doing that unless a whole bunch of people comment on this video saying, yes, Jake, I want to know the grind angles all the way along. I've not been getting comments about that for a long time, and you know, it's just another 15, 20 minutes worth of work to set everything up and get those measurements and work out the averages and all that stuff. So I skipped the grind angles. Handle length from end to end of this micarta, 119.8 millimeters, 4.71 inches. The grip area, it's a little bit less, right around 11 centimeters, 4.5 inches, something like that. The thickness of the handle here, 17.2 millimeters, that's 0.68 of an inch. So yeah, it fills the hand quite well. It's biggest this way for the handle depth, 28.6 millimeters, 1.13 inches. And the total length of this thing, 229 millimeters, 9.01 inches. So for a knife that's going to cost you $55.88 US, that's if you get it at White Mountain Knives, using my coupon code CCE, you know, then you're going to get the 10% off. That's worth it. That's around $77 Canadian. Now, I don't know of a store in Canada that has this. Hopefully Blades Canada is going to get it. They've got, you know, the folding Canary. They got the original Canary, the mini guy. Hopefully they'll get this knife too. But like I said, if they don't and you're in Canada, a fixed blade like this is safe to import into the country. I didn't have to pay any duty or stuff like that at the border. It just came across. Now, if you spend loads of money, then you might have to end up spending duty. Or if they're doing one of their enforcement runs where they try to get money off of every package that comes in, yeah, you'll have to pay a little bit of tax. But if you want a knife like this, there you go. Or if you want something from White Mountain Knives that isn't anywhere else, go for it. I don't get anything. If you use that coupon code at White Mountain Knives, I get nothing. It's not a referral code. It's just, I'm helping you out. White Mountain Knives does give me a little discount when I buy knives if I'm going to review them. So that's the deal, how that works. Just to be fully 100% transparent with you guys. So what do I think of this knife overall? It's good. It's a good knife. The changes I would like this knife to be like 1.5 inches longer, 5.5 inch blade. That would make this thing quite awesome. A little bit thinner at this edge would really help. I think the choice of steel is quite good, especially in this price range. The handle material, you know, it's good. It's really nice. Hopefully this knife does really well, and they might do some special handle materials, maybe a wood, maybe a carbon fiber, maybe something else. Who knows? But if the sales don't do good enough, you know, that's not going to happen. But they started off with a good micarta, and I just like it. I'm quite happy with it. If you've got small men's hands or the equivalent in a female, you might find this a little bit big. Maybe not. It all depends on, you know, your personal preference for grabbing stuff. But if you're one of those guys who's well into the extra large range, this thing is still going to fit an awful lot of hands. Like I said, I've got my hands are just barely extra large, and there's a fair bit of room left there. Happy, happy, happy. The sheath, yeah, because you can change this out and put something else on here, that's quite good. This taco, the main sheath part, it's well done. You can add something else here and turn it into a dangler if you want to, or whatever you want. That's just fine. But for this price range, I think this is a good sheath. You can carry it on an angle if you prefer, like that, 45 degree. You can do a scout carry if you want to, and this push off is probably the best thing about the sheath. So that's my opinion of this knife. Do you have one? Let me know in the comments down below what you think of it. And if you don't have one, do you plan on getting one? Just close that off like that. Put this back on the screen so I can take my thumbnail shot, and that'll be it for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please leave a comment. I appreciate it very, very much. And remember, friends, well, if you've watched this far, you're probably one of my regular viewers, maybe one of my supporters. I forgot to say earlier on, I still don't have a date of when I'm doing my knife sale because I still haven't heard how much I'm going to have to pay back to my disability insurance. So I don't know how much money I got to raise. Maybe I'm putting it off because I don't want to do it. Maybe I'm just putting it off because I'm lazy. I don't know. Maybe because I'm a little stressed out right now with that whole scenario. So thank you for those of you guys who are giving me words of encouragement and being positive that way. I appreciate it. But always, remember, friends, cut towards your chum, not your thumb.